You actually have been in Asia a lot, and you've been looking at the factories, and you've been talking to people who are the end buyers of some of these chips and the producers to understand exactly how much demand there is. What have you seen that gives you such confidence that this really is a takeoff story, even now, with some questions about how long the magnificent 3 or 4 U.S. big tech companies can continue to support it?
Yeah, we'll be going back to Asia on next week. $1 trillion of CapEx is what we see from an AI perspective over the next 3 years. You go back 6 months ago, we thought that was $500 billion. And so every quarter, if you look at the underlying demand, not just from hyperscalers, but eventually it's going to be other enterprises, it's just starting. So all of our checks are showing demand's actually continuing to accelerate. You know, as Farrell talked about, yields are improving from a production perspective, that they're the only game in town. Use cases are coming through. We saw that with Palantir. You see that with ServiceNow. Now this fourth industrial revolution. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will AI revolution. It's starting to come together. Anyone that thinks this is hype, you listen to conference calls, Nvidia, AMD, Microsoft, Palantir, and others. I mean, I don't know what watch party those bears are, but they're not listening to the calls that I am.
You say it's LeBron at high school. Why isn't it Zion Williamson? Why couldn't we end up with a situation when we actually get real competition and it just doesn't do that well anymore? How big is this moat around this company? Yeah,
and I think it's a great question. Right now, only game in town. AMD and obviously Lisa Su and others are going to benefit. The reason this is a LeBron in high school is because they are so ahead of any other competitor. And right now, they're the only game in town. The new gold, the new oil, it's AMD chips. And when you come away from that conference call last night, now I get after hours and bears will come out, but there's nothing that makes me think that we don't have a year from now or less. You have $3-4 trillion market caps. Godfather of AI and Nvidia, what's happening in Cupertino with the AI supercycle starting off on iPhone 16, and what's happening with Nadella and Redmond.
Nvidia is once again at the center of attention in the stock market, soaring to new heights and capturing headlines globally. The artificial intelligence chip leader has reached an all-time high, spurred by a roaring third-quarter report from Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing and buzz around its top-tier Blackwell platform. Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, has described the demand for their technology as nothing short of insane. With such fervor, investors and analysts alike are asking, could Nvidia, the tech giant, soon outpace its main rivals, Apple and Microsoft, to become the first $10 trillion company? While specifics remain under wraps, the anticipation in the financial world is almost palpable. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the phenomenon propelling Nvidia's rise and what it could mean for your investment strategies. Hello everyone and welcome back to Investocracy.
Nvidia's Blackwell chips boast 2.5 times the computing power as its predecessor chips. He mentioned how everybody wants to get their hands on this. This is another case where Jensen Huang could probably set a lot of the guidelines too. OpenAI saying you can't invest in anybody else. Jensen Huang has to figure out who to give these chips to because there's so much demand for them, and set up some way of putting people in the queue for it.
You know, the market immediately said, okay, $6.6 billion, that basically gets funneled to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA's stock kind of gets a little bit of a lift. It's still in this sloppy trading range, but that's been the kind of the path, right? It's been the big players and VCs put money into OpenAI. They have to invest it as fast as possible. NVIDIA gets most of it. Half of what NVIDIA gets goes to NVIDIA's bottom line. The market's now capitalizing NVIDIA earnings at 32 times forward. So that's how it helps a little bit refresh the public tech markets to a degree. I guess the question is, how much has to come after this? You see these wild estimates of $50 and $100 billion more in a hurry that the industry has to build to scale. I mean, I think we should mention NVIDIA is up 2.3%. It's been kind of bopping around this area. It hasn't really been able to get above and stay above like the mid-120s, the old highs. Chris Ferrone over at Strategas this morning was saying it's at a pretty critical point. Needs to break this little series of downtrends. It peaked in June, but for now, now you see it making another effort here. He says 128 is what you have to do to really break the downtrend.
Tape's been watching some of these repeated stock sales in NVIDIA by Jensen Huang. In fact, for the sector at large, executives in the semiconductor industry, I'll double check my numbers here, sold 1.35 billion in stock in Q3. That is the biggest quarterly sale on record.
I do think Jensen Huang was a huge piece of that in this instance. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. They had a massive first half of the year. Those stocks just went crazy. What's interesting about Nvidia is, as everyone keeps saying, the stated valuation continues to improve because earnings are holding up, the stock's doing nothing. 92% buy ratings on the street. The consensus price target's like 150. So the consensus price target says this should be a $3.6, $3.7 trillion company already, and everyone already likes it. So I think that's why it's kind of stuck in its tracks a little bit here.
Nvidia's recent successes have invigorated the market, setting the stage for a monumental shift in the tech industry. As of mid-October, Nvidia's market cap was a staggering $3.39 trillion, just a heartbeat away from Apple's $3.57 trillion, with Microsoft trailing not far behind at $3.11 trillion. This rapid ascent is fueled not just by Nvidia's innovative prowess in AI, but also by the analytic prowess and market insight of its close partner, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. Such alignment begs the question, can any corporation race to a $10 trillion market capitalization, or is this merely a financial fantasy? Historically, crossing the $1 trillion mark seemed implausible until Apple shattered the ceiling in August 2018. Fast forward 5 years, and Apple's valuation soared to $3 trillion. Could Nvidia replicate this feat? Analysts argue that within the next decade, it's more plausible than ever for a company to reach such a colossal market cap. The frenzied enthusiasm surrounding AI appears to be the fuel that could launch Nvidia onto this next financial milestone. Now, here's a lighthearted aside for our tech-savvy investors. Nvidia's stock seems to be playing the Jeopardy game of stocks. I'll take tech bubbles for $200, please. Yet, unlike other bubbles from the past, AI's demand isn't just hot air. It's a solidified reality as affirmed by Nvidia's continued strategic advancements and lucrative partnerships. Consider the evidence. Over 5 consecutive quarters, Nvidia reported triple-digit revenue growth, a streak that's noteworthy even in the dynamic, fluctuating world of technological achievements. While projections suggest a slight ebbing to 82% revenue growth in the upcoming quarter, the outlook remains optimistic with an expected 43% growth in future projections. Nvidia's foothold in burgeoning sectors, such as autonomous vehicles and robotics, cements its status as a powerhouse capable of driving the next technological evolution. But before we go any further, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market. So, click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to the video.
You mentioned the percentage of buy recommendations. It's in the top 10 of percentage of buy recommendations, along with
and
Amazon
for good reason.
and some
Again,
airlines.
what do analysts do? They look at the earnings momentum. They look at the end demand. So, I mean, it is interesting, although it's the biggest AI wave until the next one, presumably, right? I mean, it's kind of just reinforcing the exact same story we all know.
The question about delay on Blackwell lasted for about 5 minutes, right? Because he continues to talk about, and the street continues to focus more on the fact that demand, in his words, as he said yesterday, is insane. At the Goldman Sachs Communicopia and Tech Conference that I was at a few weeks ago, he did a keynote with David Solomon where he again described just the unbelievable, overwhelming amount of demand that they continue to see. It's why we look past any issue of potential delay, because we know it's coming and we know the demand is there. And the other thing that he got me thinking of as I listened to part of that talk was the feeling that they have such a tremendous installed base, where it's not just a first mover advantage, it's actually a moat.
Right.
Because they look at their customers as an installed base, whether it's even in gaming, not even in AI, but gaming, and then you put AI overlay on top of that. It's a very Apple-like way that he was talking about it, he wasn't talking about Apple, but it made me think about it that way.
Although the argument still is out there that one man's margins are another man's opportunity, and how long can you sustain 90% margin?
That's what I mean, that's obviously what it is. And do the buyers have an incentive to try and, to diversify away and the whole, but also I think even more simple than that, everything we're talking about here, the stock at 125 in June kind of understood that, so I think that's why you have to, wait for it to really prove that next year's numbers are going to hold up and the market's willing to bet.
The crux of NVIDIA's potential stems from its AI GPU dominance. Simply put, these GPUs are the engine revving the advancements in tech innovations as colossal as autonomous cars to as delicate as precision robotics. NVIDIA's competitive advantages extend far from its peers like Apple, whose growth avenues, like smartphones, hover within mature markets ripe with their ceilings. Tweets and analyses further bolster these perspectives, streaming in from financial wizards on Wall Street. The narrative surrounding the new Blackwell AI chip heralds major upside for NVIDIA, with analysts predicting heightened market dominance as a result of this innovation. Ram Ahluwalia, Lumida Wealth Management CEO, said it best on Yahoo Finance. NVIDIA is still in its early innings. As the hyperscalers prepare to invest billions in GPU computing, NVIDIA stands absolutely poised to reap handsome rewards. While betting on NVIDIA excites investors, skewed return possibilities lurk with other AI-themed funds. Nonetheless, NVIDIA's robust enterprise partnerships, like those with SAP and ServiceNow, further amplify the company's growth trajectory. These collaborations underscore NVIDIA's role as a preferred AI partner across industries, a sentiment iterated by financial analysts globally. Jensen Huang's commentary about AI ultimately driving a new industrial revolution underscores NVIDIA's expansive vision. At Gartner IT Symposium, Huang likened AI's burgeoning significance to past industrial pivots, a testimony to AI's transformative power and NVIDIA's overarching strategy to capitalize on this evolution. With over 50,000 employees and potentially 100 million AI assistants powering NVIDIA's future, the expansion of AI within the workforce is not just anticipated, it's deemed inevitable. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Focus on that word, Josh. Insane demand. What Jensen Huang continues to see, why investors continue even when there are pullbacks to not let them last very long.
I'm old enough to remember when semiconductor CEOs were sandbagging and they would say demand is okay, and then they would come out and crush it. Apparently, Jensen Huang doesn't believe that he needs to do that, which is why you got a plus 3% move in the stock today. If you have a CEO who is ostensibly going to come out with a very important update the next time they report their quarter on demand for this new platform, and he's already saying the word insane publicly, I think you got to stay long. Unless he's insane, nobody would do that for any other reason other than he sees the order book and he's pretty comfortable sitting there in the leather jacket, sipping a yoo-hoo. Like, he's good. And when you get that vibe off a CEO, I can't quantify it. I can just tell you, it makes sense for this name to be green and not red today.
As the stock market sways to the rhythm of NVIDIA's soaring crescendo, investors are left with an enticing proposition. NVIDIA stands as the frontrunner in the race to become the world's first $10 trillion company. With its unmatched growth rate, pioneering AI advancements, and strategic partnerships across tech giants, the potential for substantial returns is palpable. Current trends depict NVIDIA as more than a burgeoning tech behemoth. It's a compelling testament to the new age of digital innovation, leading the charge with industry-defining advancements. With stock analysts raising expectations and market excitement at an all-time high, NVIDIA's trajectory seems to touch the sky, or rather, $10 trillion. What do you think about NVIDIA's meteoric rise and its strategic grip on the future of AI? Could it indeed become the next juggernaut of the tech industry, or is this just another fleeting bubble? Share your insights and join the conversation about a company that is rewriting the rules of tech investment. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like NVIDIA have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.